But the issue that when you're getting sick with a real pathogen, like a virus like COVID, is that it takes, like I said, some time for your body to make that antibody. So in that time where your body's scrambling around and it hasn't been able to come up with that reaction to fight it yet, that virus is able to replicate in your body and it gets everywhere, and then your body kind of gets overwhelmed and you get really sick from it. So what a vaccine does is that, like I said, it's just giving you basically like a practice round. So it puts that antigen in your body. So it's not enough to make you sick, and a lot of times it can't actually do anything by itself, but your body's still able to recognize it and go, that's something foreign, let's make an immune response to it. And it kind of has that leeway of having a lot of time to be able to make those antibodies and that immune response.
What is your background?
So hi everybody, I'm Hannah. I'm 22 and I'm at Western University right now. So that's a university in Ontario, Canada. And I'm in my final year of study in science, like biology background degree. So I have some experience with medical sciences and then neuroscience. And then more recently, I've been like more interested in microbiology. So that's something that I think I'd like to study further on. And then, yeah, like Cassandra mentioned, we met each other back last summer when the COVID pandemic was kind of ramping up, when Heal Mary transitioned to bringing in COVID patients too to help them connect with clinical trials. So that's when we met back then, and that's, I guess, what I'm doing here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, what was fascinating for me is all of the work that you helped us do in terms of making it easy for patients to understand about clinical studies, the purpose of them, what questions to ask. And that's why, obviously we're having this question today, because as things have evolved, now we're seeing some therapeutics, some treatments, some diagnostic tools coming out, and there's a lot of information. So I thought, you being the expert for us in translating really difficult medical items into plain language, maybe you and I could have a quick dialogue on some of the things that are getting traction and attention in the news. So vaccines, obviously the biggest thing, there's a race for them. There is interest in them. There's now approvals on them, and they're being rolled out. So firstly, what are vaccines?
Yeah, so yeah, it's such a big topic right now. Like I was reading something the other day that was saying, I think like 58,000 Canadians so far have already been vaccinated. So yeah, it's really exciting. So basically what a vaccine is it's just a form of treatment that you can get that's basically exposing your immune system to like a mock form of the real pathogen. So in respect of COVID-19, with the vaccine, they're going to be giving you a form of the COVID virus that's not exactly how it normally is. So it's like weakened, or you take a little part of it that your immune system is able to recognize. So it gives your body this like practice round where it's able to try out what works and be able to practice killing it. So if you do come into contact with it later on, your body knows exactly what to do and you're considered immune to it because you aren't able to get sick anymore.
And are there differences with different vaccines?
Yeah, there definitely is. So I can just go into like a little bit of a short background about how vaccines work. So with that, to begin, you kind of need to understand a little bit about how your immune system works. So if you come in contact with a pathogen, so something that makes you sick, either it's like a bacteria or a virus, it'll come into your body, and the way your body recognizes it as being foreign is because like on the outside of it, it has all of these surface proteins and sugars that your body recognizes as something called antigens, because it recognizes that it's foreign to your body, and so it's coming from something that is, foreign, and it's going to make you sick. So when your body recognizes these antigens on the outside, your immune cells all talk to each other basically, and it goes through this big cascade of events where at the very end, your body will try out making all of these different types of antibodies. And antibodies are like a key to the lock that is the antigen. So you have to try out really different ones because you need to find one that's specific to that exact pathogen that has these like shapes on the outside. So your body has to spend sometimes like a few days where they'll try out different ones in order to find one that fits. And when they find one that fits, then they're able to swarm around that pathogen in your body and be able to kill it and make it so it can't make you sick anymore. But the issue that when you're getting sick with a real pathogen like a virus like COVID is that it takes, like I said, some time for your body to make that antibody. So in that time where your body's scrambling around and it hasn't been able to come up with that reaction to fight it yet, that virus is able to replicate in your body and it gets everywhere, and then your body kind of gets overwhelmed and you get really sick from it. So what a vaccine does is that, like I said, it's just giving you basically like a practice round. So it puts that antigen in your body. So it's not enough to make you sick. And a lot of times it can't actually do anything by itself, but your body's still able to recognize it and go, that's something foreign. Let's make an immune response to it. And it kind of has that leeway of having a lot of time to be able to make those antibodies and that immune response. And your immune system is really cool. It actually has these memory cells that are able to remember, okay, this is what the antigen for this virus looks like, and this is the antibody that we'll use to fight it. So it can remember that for decades sometimes when you get a vaccine. And so if you do come in contact with that virus in real life later on, right away it's able to know, okay, this is how I deal with it. And so with that, you don't get sick from it.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's so
Well,
interesting.
it's so fascinating. I didn't know it could last up to 10 years. Like, that's incredible memory on your body's behalf to build it that quickly and remember it. When it comes to efficacy rate, what is efficacy rate? Because they're talking about, with vaccines, there's 95% or 90% efficacy rate. What does that mean exactly for people taking the vaccine?
So I think efficacy rate refers a lot of the times to, I think it can refer to different things. So like one being if 100 people are being vaccinated, and within that group of 100 people, how many of them are actually going to be fully protected against it? Because sometimes your immune system can come up with like a 50% response or like a full response, that type of thing. And that will also dictate to, like, there's certain vaccines that you'll take where you get it just once and you only need it once and then you're protected. And then other ones where you kind of will need a booster. So you get one and then a few weeks later, months later, whatever the time scale is, you'll need to get a second boost to fully protect your immune system. But overall, with efficacy for the COVID vaccine, I think so far it's been saying that it's really quite high. So that would be meaning that if 100 people gets vaccinated, that most people that do get vaccinated are going to be protected against it.
Oh, fantastic. So the efficacy rate is really about the effectiveness of it, more than anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I didn't actually fully answer your question before because you were asking with the COVID vaccine, are there different kinds of it too? So
Hmm.
with the COVID vaccine, they came up with two major kinds. They're really quite similar actually, but the first one is like a protein-based vaccine. So like I mentioned, on the outside of a virus, there's those antigens that are different shapes of proteins. And so instead of putting the whole virus in you, but like weakened or dead, which some other vaccines will do. With the COVID vaccine, what they've done is they've just taken one of the proteins that's on the outside that your body needs to recognize it, but by itself it can't like make you sick or do anything to your body. So what they've done with that is they've taken the spike protein on the outside of the COVID virus, and that spike protein is what interacts with receptors on our cells to be able to enter our cells. And it's also what our body uses to recognize it as being like a foreign body. So they've taken that protein and what they'll do is they'll just inject you with that protein encased in some other things. And that's what your body uses to recognize it. And then it is able to go through that whole process where it makes antibodies and memory cells. So it's able to remember it and recognize that real spike protein when it comes in contact with it later. And then the second vaccine that's also happening is an mRNA-based vaccine. So that one is really similar to a protein-based vaccine, but it's just taking it kind of one step backwards. So mRNA is actually the instruction to make the protein. So with that, they've taken that spike protein and they found like what the instructions for it, the spike protein are. So they'll put that instruction into you, and then the protein will be made in your own body, and then again goes out of the cell, and then your immune system is able to recognize it and fight it. But with both of these cases, it's just using one small part of the COVID virus. Yeah, as opposed to putting the whole virus in or a weakened form. It's just that one protein, which is all your body really needs to be able to recognize it as the SARS-CoV-2 virus.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
That's incredible. In terms of, I think this is a super high level, and there are definitely lots of people on the topic. If someone wanted to get more information on the types of vaccines, obviously the ones that are making them, the pharma companies that have them, where else could they go as resources to find out more about the vaccines, about even a deeper dive than this and figuring out how it all functions? Where would you recommend that people start looking?
Yeah, there's like a ton of resources right now, especially with the vaccine coming out, because it's such a hot topic in the media, and there's tons of information on just the web, on YouTube, and then even on social media too. So when I was kind of reading about the vaccine, I'm finding too that every time I read something more and read a different source, I'm always learning something new. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things you can do. So one of them I would always recommend is to go to, like, you could just go to a website and just type in like coronavirus vaccine, that type of thing, and then all relevant hits will come up. And I would recommend people to go to like credible sources. So really good ones are to go to ones that are put out by universities. So like Harvard University, Oxford University, a lot of those have education about vaccines and about viruses and overall health. So anything that ends in that type of extension is a really good source. Also to like Public Health Agency of Canada and the CDC from America has a lot of really good resources. I know the CDC actually has this really interactive, it's almost like a quiz you can do where they teach you how the vaccine process works and how it generates this immune response in your body. And then you can like practice making sure you understand the steps. So there's a lot of good links on like the CDC and those agencies. And then also, like I mentioned too, because the vaccine is such a big topic right now, I've been finding that there's a lot of good resources on social medias too. So on Instagram, I've been finding that a lot of like medical doctors and PhDs that are like in relevant fields like immunology and virology. A lot of them have taken to their social medias to educate about vaccines too. So I've seen some really good interviews, like question and answer format between these experts in the field. So yeah, you can always find links like that on like Instagram, and I found like that's a really good platform so far.
Fantastic. So there is information out there. There is access to that information. It's being mindful and maybe just making sure that the source is comes from an academic resource.
Mhm.